Welcome to Study with the Best, the magazine show that's all about CUNY. I'm Tina Beth Pina. On today's show, we'll take a look at this past season and highlight our most captivating stories. We'll examine the world of a criminalist, watch Tobias the Robot in action, learn about solar energy, and so much more. But first, DNA has forever changed the world of solving crimes. On episode 10, Barry Mitchell spoke to Andrew Schweigart, who explains what a criminalist does.
We're at the office of New York City's chief medical examiner. We've all seen those police procedural shows on TV. CSI, NCIS, Blue Bloods, Law and Order, Bones. But how realistic are they?
Basically what they're doing on those shows is combining the roles of several people into one to make it more interesting. So they're taking the things that a district attorney might do, they're taking some things that a medical examiner does, they're taking some things that a police officer does, and they're taking things that a forensic scientist does, and they're giving all those responsibilities to the forensic scientist.
Meet Andrew Schweigart from Northport, Long Island, Ph.D. from John Jay College of Criminal Justice, and currently a criminalist for the City of New York.
Criminalist is someone at our agency who examines articles of evidence from a crime for body fluids like blood, semen, and saliva, and tests those fluids to determine if they're of human origin, to determine if they are indeed the fluids that we think they might be, and then to determine if we can get a DNA profile from those fluids. Besides our homicide and sex crimes and property crimes units, we also have a team of scientists dedicated to solving missing persons cases, and also we still have a team of scientists working on World Trade Center identifications.
Quick, what does DNA stand for?
Deoxyribonucleic acid.
He's good.
DNA is a molecule found in the nucleus of every cell in our body, except red blood cells. DNA is our genetic blueprint. It's a pretty safe bet that no two people on Earth have the same DNA.
With certain exceptions like identical twins would have.
But as human beings, everyone's DNA has some things in common.
About 99% of human DNA is identical across all humans. That's what gives us all 2 ears and 2 eyes and arms and legs, but we're looking at that very small fraction of DNA that is unique to each person.
The first time DNA evidence was successfully used to prosecute a case was in 1986. Shortly after, Maury Povich announced for the first time, "You are not the father." Before the introduction of DNA typing, law enforcement had to rely on other kinds of physical evidence.
All identification is by eye, for no machine has yet been devised to classify fingerprints, every one of which is different.
DNA is superior to other methods of identification because it gives us very powerful statistics. When we determine a match in our laboratory, typically the match statistics are somewhere in the neighborhood of 1 in several trillion. The samples that we work with can be very tiny, and we can still get useful data from it. So in this tube is a very small volume of liquid, 2 microliters. We can work with stains that originate from amount of liquid this small and still successfully get DNA profiles.
Sometimes DNA evidence is not visible to the naked eye. So Dr. Schweigart showed me a special room that requires protective glasses.
I don't see any stains. I don't see anything. It's a hat. It's a cap.
This is an ultraviolet light source or an alternate light source that we use to examine evidence for stains that we couldn't see with our own eyes.
And now, look at all this. Sweat.
That's right. We wouldn't be getting the DNA from the sweat itself. Basically, if I was to make a cutting of this, we'd be getting the DNA from skin cells that were rubbed off with the sweat. I've always been interested in science and law enforcement. I also didn't see myself as a police officer walking a beat and carrying a firearm and having to chase people and make arrests. And forensic science just seemed like a natural compromise. John Jay was everything to my career. I was in contact with some of the most talented people in my field. I was working in state-of-the-art facilities and learning there. So CUNY opened so many doors to me, and without it I don't think I'd be working at the medical examiner's office. That just gave me such a great foundation to build off of. What I like about my job is that we're always helping people, and what I especially like about it is that we're not necessarily playing for one side or the other. We like to think of ourselves as advocates for the truth. If you look in our lobby, we have a big sign that says "Science Serving Justice." It's not science serving the police, it's not science serving the prosecutor. We're just totally neutral, looking for the right answer, the truth.
Barry Mitchell, Study with the Best.
Solar energy has a strong foothold at CUNY. Back in episode 3, we took a look at this growing industry and CUNY's role in that growth.
In about 2006, when we mapped the city initially, there was a megawatt of solar in the city. Today, there's over 35 megawatts. And when you think about 35 megawatts, that may not sound like a lot, but that's over 2,000 rooftops in New York City. Part of the reason why people choose to adopt solar is because of the incentives and the payback, and they need to understand that when they make that investment, they're going to realize some payback, some reduction in their energy bills as they make that investment. And the state and the city and the federal government all have incentives that work together to bring down the price of solar. In New York City, there is particularly a property tax abatement that allows for the prices in the city to actually be competitive with prices outside of New York City.
I'm the owner of this house in Far Rockaway, and I'm getting my solar panels installed today, and I'm very happy about it.
Solar is a fast-growing industry, and with the governor of New York State putting in a lot of money, $1 billion into solar initiative through the Sun Initiative, it's going to grow exponentially in New York State. We work exclusively with low-income homeowners, working with families that have incomes up to 80% of the area median income. It seems such an obvious thing to bring solar to people who have been left out of solar. Low-income communities across the board are not able to access. They don't have enough tax liability to get the federal tax credit of 30%. So they really can't take advantage of it. They don't have the upfront cost that they have to put in, upwards of $10,000, $12,000.
I was affected by Sandy. We had about 4 foot of water in the house, and it's nice to know that these fine people can come out and and install it for us for free. It's pretty awesome. I'm overwhelmed.
Solar helps not only reduce the cost of the homeowner, which it absolutely does dramatically, but it also helps the planet. The offset of greenhouse gas emissions is very large with solar. We've done about 5,000 installations nationwide with our program, and that's an offset of about 340 million tons of greenhouse gas emissions. And in communities that are environmentally challenged, that becomes very, very important in terms of offsetting and getting the air cleaner in these communities where there are health challenges because of the environmental challenges. And the third reason to do it is that it creates jobs. And these are not jobs that can be outsourced to other countries. I mean, they're homegrown jobs that will remain for a very long time. For instance, on this installation, one of the workers is Crystal Ruiz, who came to us through Green City Force, a nonprofit that works with residents of the New York City housing projects. We chose her out of a cohort of 12 people who we trained for a week and had them out on an installation on the roof. She had such aptitude and passion for solar that we said, okay, you're going to be one of our 2 interns that come for 8 weeks to work with us. At the end of that 8 weeks, she was so good that we've hired her as a Solar Corps member. So she is our roof leader, and she's a phenomenal, and she's so excited, and she's going to go far in the solar industry.
I get to really show myself and learn and grow here, so I feel like, yeah, this is going to be my future.
Bronx Community College has a solar program, and we have joined a proposal that was approved through NYSERDA to do 10 installations with the students of their solar projects.
The Center for Sustainable Energy really set out to train the workforce of the future. to be able to help students and the community understand how to put in solar arrays, how to work with wind turbines, how to understand energy efficiency and to be able to look at a building and assess it. This system actually was put here in part due to efforts of a group of Hunter students. The students really felt that it was important to have a system up here. They wanted to see it happen. They got together and they were able to raise the money and work with CUNY in order to make this happen. Because CUNY is such a broad and large institution, we're able to reach out to each one of our campuses, to experts across each of our campuses, and also to house our New York City and New York State solar ombudsman and be able to be that trusted third party to those around the state and really those around the country. But also we can tap CUNY professors and researchers in order to help build a tool like the New York Solar Map. Now you can plug in your address, any address of the 1 million buildings in the city, and it will take you to that rooftop. It will tell you what the solar potential is on that rooftop. And then we were able to build a calculator that takes into considerations fire code setbacks and building codes and the incentives that are there from the state and from the city and from the federal government, and tell you what the payback is on that investment.
City Tech is on the cutting edge of technological innovation. On our second episode, Study with the Best met with Tobias, a robot that exactly mimics human movement.
I'm Ari Goldberg. We're here at City Tech, which has been thrust into the international limelight because of mechatronics. Isn't that right, Tobias?
Mechatronics stands for mechanical and electronics, which is a term invented by a Japanese engineer 40 years ago.
With a grant from the National Science Foundation, Professor Andy Zhang and his colleagues were able to develop the mechatronics department here at City Tech, an emerging field combining computer engineering, mechanical engineering, and electronic engineering, or in a word, robotics. And the program's greatest success? A robot named Tobias. What is Tobias?
Tobias is actually an acronym. Tobias stands for Teleoperated Bimanual Augmented System. Teleoperated means that it's remote or wireless. Bimanual, it's got 2 arms. Augmented system, it's a big system when you put it together. I was planning on creating something that was wireless and would be able to mimic my movements, my hand movements, right? That's where I would start. And once I can accomplish that, I can create a whole suit. Everybody who's an engineer has sort of a dream and a crave for the Iron Man suit.
But to build more than a hand, our resident Tony Stark needed some help to get his robot off the ground. Bijan Mokhtari and Angela Kuka joined Eugene in the lab, each bringing different skills to the mechatronics table.
Tobias is essentially a robot that mimics the movements of a human that is wearing the suit. It can do everything your arms can do. It follows your head, and you see what the robot sees with using the helmet.
Every finger has a sensor in there. The wrist has a sensor, the elbow has a sensor, and we processed all that data and spit it out back into the motors that we are using to power the robot, and made those motors copy exactly what you're doing when you're doing it.
Using materials often no more complicated than rubber bands and fishing wire, the team is able to make plastic mimic a person.
You can control the wrist motion here, left and right. This is all 3D printed. And if you pull on the fingers, you can tell that it's a similar design using still rubber bands, which is by far one of the best technologies ever created.
The goal was to make Tobias as universally accessible as possible so that anyone could make one. And with 3D printing technology becoming more commonplace, that's not an unrealistic future.
Half of the robot is actually 3D printed. Without 3D printers, this project would not be possible. The cool thing about 3D printing is you make a plastic part, you make it fast, you don't have to wait for it, right? And then if it breaks, you just remake it again, no problem. You can glue it, cut it, and it's just plastic. Here we trust Tobias enough to hold a knife here we illustrate how Tobias can actually do the opposite and pour the water into a cup for us, so he can be your servant.
Even more impressive are the accolades Tobias has won. Every year, tech company Digilent Incorporated hosts an international technology design competition. Tobias won the American contest and headed out to Shanghai to represent CityTech and the USA in the finals.
When we went to the presentation room and people had to vote on it, we won by a landslide.
We were just like, oh, let's hope at least we place somewhere. But we were completely surprised, I think, all of us.
This is the greatest success we have for the college as well, because since we have this grant, there's a huge amount of students want to participate, want to get involved with this kind of activity.
The future for Tobias, I imagine it to be not made purely of plastic anymore, and I imagine it to be a long-range wireless system capable of handling tasks that you in your human body just aren't capable of.
So in the future, theoretically, you could be in the suit in America and this could be moving in another country.
Oh yeah, definitely. It's a little scary thought, but yeah.
The implications of this technology are far-reaching. Imagine a doctor performing surgery remotely, or a technician able to address a situation in a nuclear reactor from afar, or even unmanned spaceflight. It's not science fiction. The technology is available at CityTech and now online and open source for all the world to contribute.
You can have other people take it and suggest ideas on how to make it better. And before you know it, you have something that you would have never been able to accomplish by yourself. But now you have all these people helping it.
From CityTech Mechatronics, I'm Ari Goldberg. This is Tobias for Study with the Best.
On our fourth episode dedicated to film, we profile Brazilian-born Flavio Alves and his journey to becoming a successful filmmaker. Let's take a look.
I was pretty much forced to leave my country and come to the US. I wrote a book in 1997 about gays in the military. The book was pretty much my life story as a gay man in the Navy, the Brazilian Navy. I thought it was important to let people know how gays and lesbians had been treated. And little by little I thought that that book would help eventually bring other people from the shadows and be able to talk about their own stories. I was suddenly everywhere, my face was everywhere. I got a call from the government, said like they could not protect me. And I feared for my life at that moment. 2 days later, I was in the United States. Just like any other immigrant, I have to do the jobs that Americans don't want to do. I have to wash dishes, I have to clean houses. Then a year after, I was granted political asylum. And with the help of CUNY Law School, the students at CUNY Law School, those kids was just like amazing, And at that time I could barely speak English, and they helped me so much, and they embraced my case just like I haven't seen anything like that, and the sense of community that I got. I thought that I would be jumping up and down after I was granted political asylum, but I felt exactly the opposite, because I have to let it go like a huge part of myself. Everything was an accident, and it was never planned, and then I thought that I could make a difference making films, and here I am, The City College of New York MFA program is very unique in a way that you learn the real indie filmmaking process. I have done 5 films, and again, all my films are about elderly people, and it's a very tough sell because studios are looking for films that have young people, vampires, and zombies.
Hello?
The most known film that I have done so far was The Secret Friend, which got into more than almost 100 film festivals. And now I have my new one, Tom in America.
Hi, honey. Any good finds?
Not really. I want a different coming out story. So Tom in America is a different one because he's celebrating, with his wife, 50 years, of a relationship. All of a sudden, that secret that he held in his entire life comes out.
Whoa, whoa. What happens now?
I don't know. So the film is more about love and compromise than anything else. I didn't want to make a gay story. It's not a gay story. It just happened that the main character just happened to be gay. But it's about their relationship, their love. I tend to address things that, as a person, I fear the most. And getting old is one of them. I think by making films about elderly people, I think I would help the society in general to learn more about what they have to go through, and being an elderly person is not easy, and unfortunately they're invisible, they are underrepresented, When I saw my grandmother losing her independence, losing her power, I think that was the most important, the most powerful childhood memory of my life. We have 114 people working with us in this short film, and I let them bring stuff to the table, and if it's good, let's use it. I just happen to be the guy who's gonna say action and cut, but I just feel that we are all directing this big thing. My film is gonna be playing in Brazil. They are trying to get me there, but I just don't know if I'm up to the task. There are a lot of wounds that has to heal before I go back to my country. And I'm so happy here, just became a citizen. Actually, I don't feel now that I don't belong to any side, because for Brazilians, in general, they think that I crossed the line because I embrace other culture and values. And for Americans, because I have an accent, I'm not an American enough. Can you understand me? Can you guys understand? No? Yeah, I don't know.
This past season, we looked at the Prison to College pipeline at John Jay College of Criminal Justice. The program helps people leaving prison make the transition to freedom.
I have been enrolled in John Jay for the last 3.5 years. I was locked up for 10 years. When you're first incarcerated, you still have that wild side. You still have the reason why you were there. You still have that inside you. But it takes a toll. Your body, your mind, your soul, it takes a toll. Like every day, there's something stripped away from you. And you want that back. And you're supposed to be rehabilitating yourself. If the incarceration doesn't do it for you, if the jail doesn't do it for you, you have to do it for yourself.
We designed the program so that it would begin in prison, but it would ultimately end on a CUNY campus, where so much opportunity is available to our students beyond what we would be able to literally transport to the facility. We have faculty from John Jay College and our partner institution, Hostos Community College, that travel up to the facility, give the classes, and the students earn credits that they're able to use towards their degree when they come home.
In the beginning of the play, the first thing you say is, "So foul and fair a day I have not seen." Right away, we have ambiguity between good and evil, between dark and light. Feel free to say anything you want in here. This is not about me. I couldn't understand Macbeth either.
A huge feature of the Prison to College pipeline is called our Learning Exchange. And what we do is once a month, we bring a cohort of students from John Jay College who take classes here on campus, and from Hostos Community College up to Otisville Correctional Facility to take a blended class with the incarcerated students. And really, it's such a amazing feature of the program because it serves multiple purposes. The students who are coming from John Jay and Hostos are studying criminal justice, and we think that it's a critical part of that criminal justice education to be able to engage with the people who are involved in that system and be able to have a cross-pollination and learning with each other. For our incarcerated students, they're able to see that their counterparts, that they're classmates, and that the program really is a robust experience, just like the college experience here on campus.
Take the most powerful pieces of it.
Right.
I think it's a little long and it gets repetitive, so I want you to find, like, again, go with your strength, which is the imagery pieces.
My first class was English 101. We knew that we were in college because she was no holds bar. She gave it to you how I would get it in a John Jay classroom on campus. We didn't want to fail, not just for us, but we didn't want to fail for the future classes. We wanted to be that foundation. So when people said, you know, he was incarcerated for such and such years, but he has a bachelor's in this. He went on to get a master's in this. He went on to get a doctorate in this. There's many individuals that I've met throughout the years that have doctorates that's been incarcerated. And that blows my mind.
Our aim in the Prison to College pipeline is to obviously bring higher education to folks who would not have the opportunity otherwise, but also to impact what we do in our prisons and our jails. And the best way to make kind of change in life and to have transformative change occur is through education. And there really isn't a better way to do that.
While you're incarcerated, any document that you put on or you sign, you have to put your name, you put your DIN number. And I would say after about maybe a month and a half, it was just the name. And that's when we knew we weren't incarcerated when we were in that class for 3 hours. We were students. We were CUNY students. We were John Jay students. And that was probably the most important part of our renaissance or our new life.
People, when they leave prison, face a number of challenges and roadblocks and barriers. Some of them are set up by our legal system, right? And some of them are a function of how long a person has been away, you know, what kind of challenges they faced before they left. To rattle off a few, reuniting with family, right? And having to renegotiate relationships that have been severed by that individual's incarceration. We hear students who come home and say, wow, everything's moving so fast. And having to move from an environment where things didn't move so quickly. And very unfortunately, our students are having to navigate all of that with this huge stigma and cloak of being someone who was formerly incarcerated.
I want to give a round of applause to cohort number 4, my students who got their grades yesterday, who are officially completing their first semester in college. So I am proud.
It's intentional that we send people away and isolate them from their communities. And what we're really achieving as a part of this project is bringing people back in touch with their communities and building new communities.
I want to go on to journalism, sports journalism. And I'm a big sports fan. I watch all major sports. And I want to get into that field because it's something that I know very well. And I know that it's something that I can aspire to, and my incarceration wouldn't stop me from moving ahead in that field. This program opens the door for you, helps you open the door, and walks you through the path that you want on to a better person. It makes you a better person. It makes you want to be a better person.
Thanks for watching the best of Season 14. For more information on what you just saw, log on to our website at cuny.tv or check out our Study with the Best Facebook page. Thanks for watching. See you next season.